Welcome back. We're joined this morning by Representative Leslie Osborn from District 47, one of the leading representatives in the House. And it seems like every session, Representative, that there's a couple of bills that come up that get a lot of attention, maybe not so much inside the Capitol, but they have everybody talking. They usually have an impact on society or life. And I think it was last Wednesday, there was a pretty big, the hoodie bill, as it's being termed. Everyone was talking about it. The bill failed. What was this all about?
And it was a well-meaning bill. This is Senator Don Barrington, a great gentleman from the Lawton area. And there is a group that comes through the Capitol every year. They also go to other places. They're called Anonymous. It's some kind of hacking, some kind of organization. I don't really understand. They get into some of the cyber hacking, but they come in covered in masks. It makes the secretaries nervous. None of us like to see that. You know, it's like, what, is there something untoward now? The best way to fix that is to put a sign on the door of the Capitol that says, you know, it's like no shirt, no shoes, no service. You're not going to be allowed in if you're obscuring your identity. But instead, Senator Barrington ran a bill that said, you know, no hoodies. Well, immediately we're getting calls from all over the state, and we're thinking, here's kids wearing their, you know, Mustang Broncos hoodie, and it's like, what, am I going to be arrested, you know? Okay, so the point is that bill's already been killed in the Senate by Senator Anthony Sykes. It was a well-meaning bill, but I believe, and I think that you all would believe a lot of this same thing, is that we had to really couch our conservative values with our libertarian values. In that, how much of a nanny state do we want to be? How much do we want to encroach in people's personal lives, or do we want to let homes, families, schools, communities do those things while we worry about the economy, doing everything to grow it, good for businesses, good for families? Those things spill over into that. But how much do we really want to be regulating that? And that's kind of my viewpoint on those type of bills.
Well, I think as much as we can, too. We want to, you know, you allow people to make choices, and you allow things to sort of play out, and, you know, in what we would call civil society, right? Rather than at the state capitol worrying about, you know, what kind of sweatshirts people wear.
Exactly, and there's an arrogance to that too. Now, not with that bill in particular. The arrogance is that I could imagine as a representative that there's something I could put on statute and get it in that Constitution for Oklahoma, which, by the way, has one of the thickest and most unwieldy of all state constitutions, and believe that's going to affect human behavior. Yeah, you know, is someone going to commit a crime and say, whoa, pull the hoodie down, that'll be against Section 22, Line 3, and it's not going to happen. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, there's no Oklahoma pocket constitution, right? You need a pretty serious pocket to carry that around.
You would need quite a pocket.
Well, I think that, you know, it ties back into what the governor has talked about with our prison population, right? And just the need, I think, for some humility at the legislature, right, to say not everything should be a crime, not everything that we don't want people to do should result in people going to prison. I know it's something you care about. I mean, you've been judiciary chair in the past.
It is, and you know, it's something that's a really hot topic because we as Oklahomans tend to be tough on crime. We're kind of like Texas. If you do something really bad, we want you off the streets. On the other hand, if somebody's check kiting, if it's a simple possession, those kind of things, do we want to mark people with a felony quickly where they're never going to be able to contribute to society? You got to be really careful on that. So should we be doing intervention at some of those early stages? More drug courts, more programs to get people into educational type things instead of branding them a felon where they're never going to be able to be a good taxpayer, which is what we really want with what we do.
What kind of sense are you getting from this session? I mean, you've been around, not your first rodeo, so you understand the first week and what normally happens, but there are a lot of new lawmakers, especially on the Senate side. So what sense do you have about how this session will go?
I think that we will do about what we have. I think we'll be fairly fiscally conservative. I don't know if we'll go quite as fiscally conservative as I would prefer, but that's just kind of the makeup of who we've got. We do have a fantastic freshman class, and people say that a lot, but it's a very well-versed class of people that have been out in industry in all kinds of different areas, a little older, a lot of them, and people that have been out paying taxes. I mean, what a refreshing idea that people that ran the state budget might have had to be in the private sector and pay taxes, because that's kind of important. And I think we're going to get a lot of things done. Now, are we going to change the world this year? Not necessarily. I think we will see some on the justice reinvestment. I don't think we'll see as far as the governor would like.
What do you think about this idea that with a tightened budget, we should still do $150 million more for, I think it's education and for teacher pay raises, and I think that's what Superintendent Hoffmeister had recommended, and it almost seemed like the entire size of the budget needed to shift toward education.
Right.
Others are calling for that this week as well.
Right, and you know, education, the three entities get 51% of the budget now, so remember that. That's pretty average for all states. When you hear that we're 49th in pay, that we're 49th in whatever, that never has cost of living figured in. Now, that's not popular to tell teachers that you make about 25th in the nation. They don't want to hear that, but it costs a lot less to live in Mustang than it does in New York City or Seattle. So you got to consider some of that. Now, on the other hand, do they need to be better compensated? Yes, they do. But you've got to do that in baby steps. Do we get rid of some administration levels? Do we pull back on some of the duplicative testing to pay for those things? Probably, because I don't think we're going to have a huge influx to be able to put in like that. And I will say Hofmeister is being received very well. She's doing great things. She's already jumped in with both feet, bipartisan support. I think she is, but I mean, is she ambitiously asking for a little more than we may be able to give her? Yes, but I think the feeling is let's work with her. Let's see what creative ideas she has.
Representative, thank you so much for being here. Good
Thanks
luck
for
this
having
session.
me. Okay.
Well, folks, we'll be back right after this with some final thoughts and how you might be able to get involved this session. You don't want to miss this conversation. Stay tuned.